Hey, Prime members! Have you heard? You can listen to your favorite podcasts ad-free? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free-podcast. That's amazon.com/ad-free-podcast to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Welcome to Criminality, the podcast we started because we love crime and reality TV. I'm Rebecca, and over there is my co-host and friend,
Melissa.
Melissa. No, please.
I did not trust you to even say my name. I said, I will jump in here.
You shouldn't, ever. That is a big responsibility, and I don't think I usually do say your name, so that was just me going off script.
There you go. Do you know what I realized? That I'm very thankful for this holiday season, that we dropped Tori Spelling under her spell. I've been so disassociated from her.
It got us through a period of time. It served its purpose. I mean, it gave us life there for a few weeks.
Absolutely.
It added something that we needed that we don't need anymore.
Yeah. Oh, fun little thing. Remember when Teresa was on her podcast?
I sure do.
Okay. Remember how they were like, we did a thing together, blah, 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 and we didn't know what it was? Like, why would those two have been connected? Well, Teresa's on House of Villains this season, and Tori came in as like the hot teacher for some challenge. It was really weird, but I was like, oh, this is the thing they couldn't talk about.
What a letdown.
Yeah, it was useless.
I would have loved to have seen what product they collaborated around, like what would come out of those two brains.
Maybe one brain to start, but that's about it.
Teresa was on Watch What Happens Live the other night. Did you see it?
And I've seen some clips around it,
It was so painful at the end. I shouldn't even say this, but she had to do a top 5 list, like top villainous housewives of all times, and she did her top 5 and she just said the name and read the next one. I just felt like all her concentration was going on reading. And so she couldn't really add any like context or color to her answers. It was hard to watch.
There's a clip that I'll have to send you and maybe play here. It's New York, who was from like Flavor of Love and all that. Tiffany Pollard, who is just the best villain and one of the funniest reality stars ever. It's her sitting down in the House of Villains talking to Teresa very seriously, and she earnestly says, you know, I've always respected your hairline, and continues talking, and Teresa's like, yeah, like doesn't even register that
she's not present. She is not clocking what is being said.
It was so wild, and I loved it so much, and she just kept going. Yeah. And, you know, Teresa probably, maybe she knows about it now, like maybe it's registered today, but
someone must have informed her. That. Yeah, she's a fascinating one to watch. I don't know if I can say that about the person I'm talking about today, but I have built an episode around her. So shall we start?
Please.
Okay. I'm going to start by saying 2 highly controversial words. RHONY, reboot. I know.
It's that second one.
I told you. Melissa, I know you have thoughts. Share with the group, please.
Okay. I tried watching the first season, and I think the Twitter people were being paid by Bravo. That's kind of like what people have said now, that they were like, oh my gosh, we're so back, blah, 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 that it got in my head a little bit. And I was like, maybe this is good. It just goes to show I don't have my own brain, much like Teresa. I have watched part of one episode this season. It's so bad, Rebecca, that I haven't even listened to the recaps with RHONY and Ben. And sometimes I do that instead of watching shows. I don't even enjoy it.
That's a troubling statistic for you that you're not even listening. Yeah. Listen to their recaps. They're great. I will just share this really quick. I saw on Bravo Replay's Instagram last night, and I took a screenshot. After the most recent episode, well, when this airs, it would have been the second most recent episode, which I'm going to talk about later. The poll on the Instagram story said, thoughts on RHONY? And the options were still love it, I will give it another chance, pause it ASAP, or I do not watch. And it's quite varied. So 12% still love it. 29% are willing to give it another chance. 32% said pause it ASAP. And 26% said I do not watch. For RHONY, I mean, those are bleak numbers.
Very bleak. Yeah. The reboot, I think with everyone was just not good. Like you can't get rid of all of them. It was too much.
No, they needed to adopt some hybrid situation. There were some people who didn't need to be phased out entirely, but there's something, I guess it's because it's my city, that I'll never not watch. And whether you love it or hate it, I'm still obsessed with Jenna Lyons. But I mean, we think we can all agree on that, even though she's not, she's perfectly imperfect is what I would say. But there's a new fashionista in town, and she is definitely known for her iconic handbags, especially one that she dubbed the Morning After bag, which debuted in the mid-2000s and was seen on the arms of stars like Lindsay Lohan, Jessica Alba, Reese Witherspoon, Blake Lively. I mean, this was the it bag. Do you remember the Morning After bag?
I remember hearing that phrase, but I don't remember ever seeing it or having any real knowledge. It was like
during the day of the fashion blogs, before Instagram, really, when you just kind of had to look like people who really wanted to know what the people, and then like the People magazine, like you would see Lauren Conrad with her Morning After bag and they would label it. But it isn't her accessory empire that everyone seems to be talking about. It's her affiliation with Scientology. And Scientology plays a huge part of today's story, which involves the newest cast member who I've alluded to with her bag, Rebecca Minkoff. But before we get to Scientology, which could be its own podcast, and is, let's find out how Rebecca Minkoff got on the radar at all to become a Real Housewife of New York. Now, Rebecca's considered kind of the quintessential New York it girl. At least she has been in the years between the late 90s and 2010. But she was actually born in San Diego and did a stint in Clearwater, Florida, before landing in the Big Apple. She was born into a loving family who identify as very proudly Jewish, but her parents also discovered Scientology when Rebecca and her brother Yuri were really young, so they were raised in a Jewish Scientology household. Now, I know. I think it's really important to pause here to just define Scientology, because I think it's thrown around a lot, and some people who've gone down the rabbit hole and watched the shows with Leah Remini, listen to the podcast about it, know who L. Ron Hubbard is, kind of get it. But otherwise, it's like, I don't know, floats around like, what is it really? Tom Cruise of it all. Well, it is a set of beliefs and practices invented by the American author L. Ron Hubbard and its associated movement. It's focused on understanding and improving the human mind and spirit, and the core principles, in very layman's terms, I'm not giving you a dissertation on Scientology, but it's basically Scientologists believe that you're a spiritual being with unlimited potential. The second one is that past experience shape you, and removing engrams, which are negative memories, is key to moving forward successfully towards happiness. Third is self-improvement through auditing. These auditing sessions are what are talked about a lot, and these are processes where a member of Scientology works with a coach or a leader in Scientology to confront and clear these engrams, leading to clarity. These cost a lot of money, and the more negative memories you have, the more auditing sessions you need, the more money you have to pay. The fourth one is life is about mastery. There's these dynamics and aspects of life like yourself, family, and the universe, which you're always trying to balance and improve. And essentially, the goal is spiritual enlightenment and freedom, and I would say personal growth and self-improvement. It's very much like we have unlimited potential if only we knew how to harness everything in us, get rid of the bad, play into the good, and we can do anything.
Got it.
But the critics of Scientology say that it's got incredibly secretive practices, which have only in the last couple decades been leaked, and that their organizational structure is a bit problematic. And there's the little problem of the current leader, David Miscavige, and his wife, Shelley, who has been missing for 17 years.
Hashtag where is Shelley?
Where is Shelley? So Rebecca has shared in interviews over the years that while her family was loving and successful, her dad was a doctor, she had no idea that they had money. And they did. They were wealthy. Her parents didn't buy her anything she didn't need, and they encouraged her to learn how to make things on her own or earn the money herself to buy them. So she and her brother Yuri were incredibly industrious, entrepreneurial kids. She learned how to sew when she was 8 because her mom just wouldn't buy her a new dress because she didn't need a new dress. So Rebecca made one out of fabric scraps, and this is the point where she became obsessed with the idea of creating something out of nothing, and that's something she talks about a lot. Cool. Yeah, it's like she came to the trade fairly honestly. She wanted a new dress, figured out how to make it herself. She later moved to New York City, where she began working on her first notable designs, such as the I Love New York t-shirt that gained recognition when actress Jenna Elfman wore it on television in 2001. Do you happen to remember this?
No, I know Jenna Elfman.
Yeah.
In that
ding, ding, ding.
world.
Yes.
And was that like Dharma and Greg times?
Well, Dharma and Greg started in the late 90s, and this is like 2001. So she's very, very famous, Jenna Elfman, at this point. But this breakthrough in Rebecca Minkoff's design and brand laid the foundation for her to start transitioning to designing handbags, which is really how everyone came to know her.
Right.
But going back a little bit, in 1989, Rebecca's father, Dr. David Minkoff, who's now a prominent Scientologist, like they were always Scientologists, but her family has given millions and millions of dollars to Scientology. He decides that they need to move to Clearwater, Florida, because there's a Scientology elementary school that uses Hubbard's study technology. It was called the True School, and it's where Rebecca and her brother attended until high school. Melissa, my friend in Florida, what do we know about Clearwater?
Mm-hmm. Clearwater is beautiful. Yeah. My in-law cousin, she owns those, hand and stone. They're like more popular down here, but it's massage, facials, stuff like that. She owns one down in Clearwater. And I remember when she bought one, I said, "You're going to see a lot of Scientologists." She didn't realize that Clearwater was the home to that. And now she definitely knows. So that's kind of all my connection. But I have a Rebecca Minkoff question.
Please.
Of course. Is she in any way related to Crystal?
I'm so glad you asked. They didn't know that they were until both of them made their appearances into Bravo, and Rebecca Minkoff did 23andMe, and it turns out her and Rob Minkoff, the director of Lion King, are very, very distant cousins. So there is a clip I'd like you to play. It's called Clearwater, and as you so aptly said, it is a wealthy, beautiful part of Florida. And when I say the headquarters are there, I mean the headquarters where Scientologists from around the world come to just study and visit. But the Minkoffs were so dedicated to the religion, they relocated there to send their kid to the school. So play that first clip.
Clearwater, Florida. This is Flag, Scientology's spiritual headquarters. It stands 7 stories and occupies an entire city block. At 377,000 square feet, it can fit the Parthenon 16 times over. Supporting this massive building is a 4-foot foundation with 35 million pounds of reinforced concrete, weighing more than the Brooklyn Bridge, and reinforced with another 231 tons of structural steel. Topping it all, 175 feet above, is a 22-foot Scientology cross. This is the spiritual home for all Scientologists.
I have to be honest and say I love that Florida is the home for this. People give Florida crap, Tom Cruise, all of them. This is the place this is the Mecca for them.
It truly, truly is. And the Minkoffs were all in. In a 1991 article in a local paper, the St. Petersburg Times, an 11-year-old Becky Minkoff, everybody in Rebecca's life who's close to her calls her Becky, shared a written testimonial with the newspaper about her teaching, saying, quote, "The data that L. Ron Hubbard has put together is so effective that students are happy and wanting to go to school, just like me. Some of the successes I have had, I couldn't have had if I was in a school that did not use these methods." Which sounds very natural for an 11-year-old to say.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they're all in on Scientology, and both Rebecca and her father will have this help and hurt their careers, which we'll hear about after a quick break from this week's sponsors.
There are two kinds of people, the ones who start holiday shopping in July and the ones checking their tracking status updates on Christmas Eve. We're here to shake up your holiday shopping to let you know that SimpliSafe is offering their best deal of the year right now. 60% off a new SimpliSafe home security system. And those packages you're waiting for, SimpliSafe Active Guard can actually prevent break-ins, package theft, and vandalism with live monitoring agents who can see, speak to, and deter suspicious individuals outside your home before they even get the chance, so that housewives merch will safely make it to the intended recipient. So, whether you're home for the holidays or celebrating somewhere else, SimpliSafe ensures your home is safe, which gives you a peace of mind that nobody can buy you this holiday. SimpliSafe is offering Criminality listeners exclusive early access to their Black Friday sale. This week only, you can get 60% off any new system with a select professional monitoring plan. This is their best offer of the year. Head to simplisafe.com/criminality. That's simplisafe.com/criminality. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
I'm coming out of my candy coma, and I am so glad that I have a few Factor meals sitting in my fridge ready for me to course correct with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are never frozen and, most importantly to me, are delicious. Factor lets you do you. Choose your menu preference. You can manage calories, your protein intake, avoid meat, or simply aspire to eat more well-balanced. Get on your A game or maintain your A game with quality ingredients you can taste. Let Factor take shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning up off your daily things to do. Head to factormeals.com/criminality50 and use code criminality50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code criminality50 at factormeals.com/criminality to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths but have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season, Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
So after finishing up at the True School, which went through 8th grade, Rebecca then attends a performing arts high school where she finds she's not as talented in the performing arts as maybe they had thought and gets assigned to work in the costume department, which is perfect because she's been sewing dresses.
Yeah.
And this is where she continues to explore her passion for design. If she's going to make it in fashion, which is really what she wants, there's only one place to go. So 25 years before we would meet her as the newest cast member of Real Housewives of New York Reboot, Rebecca made her way to the Big Apple. And she chose to go with a low-paying internship because her parents wouldn't even pay for college or fashion school. And they were like, if you want to do that, you have to work and pay for it yourself. Which
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
I don't either.
But it is shocking to have that much money and your parents to
and
do
to
that.
be a doctor. I never read what her mom did. I don't know if she worked, but usually someone in that profession really values education and they're like, I'm not going to let you just buy dresses, but I'll pay for your college. But they were like, no, you've got to figure this out. And she interned for this designer for a few years. And then she says she got fired, but not for typical reasons. She said that this lead designer says, you're ready to go out on your own. Go do the thing. Go make your own stuff because for as long as you're working for me, you'll never do it and you can do this. Mm-hmm. And so it was more like a push into becoming an independent designer and less of a firing, but they really were like, go. So this marks the moment when Rebecca really had to tap into that DIY spirit, and the Scientology gods must have been smiling on her because inspiration struck at exactly the right moment, or wrong, depending how you look at it. She was on a vacation in the Caribbean in 2001. How? Whose money? I don't know. And she noticed all the t-shirts being sold on the beach. You probably see this on the beaches in Florida. They're fringed, they're cut up, they've got beads on them, right? We've all seen those at different beach towns. And she said, I love these, but I want to do it in a more American New York style. So when she returned to the city, she got some I Heart New York shirts, you know the ones, white, with a black eye, black New York, red heart, cut them up artistically and made them cool. Referenced this earlier, a very popular TV actress, Jenna Elfman, star of Dharma and Greg, wore one on the Jay Leno show, and well, the rest, as they say, was history. Truly, though, because days after the shirt was featured on Leno and being prominently featured in these fashion blogs, September 11th, 2001 occurred. And now these shirts had bigger meaning, and Rebecca was officially in business. Everybody wanted one. Now, I do want to say Rebecca used the profits of the sale of those t-shirts and made a huge donation to the American Red Cross in the weeks and months after 9/11. So she did not build her empire on blood money on the backs of victims. But it's really interesting. I mean, they say timing is everything. Can you imagine the one design people are excited about, and then someone wears it on TV, and then something happens where the whole world just wants to show and say they love New York? Like, it's kind of insane.
And I'm looking at that picture, by the way, of Jenna Elfman, and I do remember.
Right?
Yeah.
And you alluded to this when we first mentioned her, that she has something really important in common with Rebecca. And she is a devout and prominent Scientologist. In fact, I don't know if she still is. I think she is. But at the time, she very much was. So I don't want to speak to presently.
Yeah.
And one thing, and I think this is true for many religions or any kind of club you join or society, even if you go to the same college, people want to help those in their own fold, right? So with the support of Jenna Elfman and other prominent Scientologists, because again, her dad was so well connected in the organization, Rebecca formalizes her business, bringing her brother Yuri on as CEO. She incorporates as an LLC in 2005, and this is when she launches the bag I mentioned called the Morning After bag. Rebecca was an it girl in New York City. Girls were going crazy for her bag because she very strategically positioned it in this mid-tier category. So there was the luxury designer brands that started at $1,500 and went way, way higher. Then there was the low-end knockoff bags, and she wanted to be higher quality and nicer than those. So she filled this open middle space, and her bags were all between $500 and $600. And for a certain working New York woman in the mid-2000s, that was the right price point. They sold really, really well. Business was booming until 2008 when the recession happened. Turns out, when the housing market crashes, so does the handbag market. Lots of brands went under, but Rebecca Minkoff regrouped and decided to drop their price point. They're like, we're going to make more bags at a lower price and maybe have to change the materials a little bit. So they changed their whole models, now making bags starting at $195 and not exceeding $300. And this completely changed her business. They started doing a volume of sales they had never seen before. Again, it feels just like luck is on her side, but at the expense of the world and the country. Yes, for her business. So let's cut to present day. RHONY reboot happens, and for anyone watching, Jenna Lyons is the adored and practically fawned upon member of the cast. Like even the women there, they just esteem her because she's had this iconic career. And Rebecca just isn't having the same effect despite her success. In fact, Bryn repeatedly brings up the fact that her bags are mostly available at Nordstrom Rack. And I can vouch for this because I have owned a couple of Rebecca Minkoff bags, and the only place I've bought them from are discount stores like Nordstrom Rack or TJ Maxx.
Oh, they could sell them at TJ Maxx? I got to start looking.
Well, she has since sold her company. And so I think once that happened, they just, I don't know, Ramona Singer's probably involved because that's what she did, right? She was a buyer for discount stores. It's like once someone's not controlling every part of their business, they probably do a different distribution. I don't know. It's not what the episode's about because nothing scandalous happened in that way. But it seems that the prestige that Rebecca Minkoff's brand once carried, the it girl factor in the early 2000s, is not as powerful now as it was then. And she just doesn't seem to have the longevity or legacy that Jenna Lyons seemed to maintain. But Melissa, this is not a fashion commentary podcast. It's a crime podcast. Rebecca, you might be asking, where's the crime? Well, fortunately for Rebecca and her business, which has had its financial ups and downs, mostly things have been on the up and up. However, there has been a lot of chatter among former employees about the working conditions at Rebecca Minkoff, which they say were terrible. Crowded offices, long hours, and most notably, there seemed to be a Scientology-infused ethos in the business operations, which made a lot of employees uncomfortable. And it wasn't just disgruntled employees venting on sites like Glassdoor, where a lot of these comments were made about their jobs. This was actually a fact. Yuri Minkoff, her brother, did make Rebecca Minkoff a WISE company, which is an acronym for a World Institute Scientology Enterprise, meaning they used L. Ron Hubbard's management technology in the business. A program that preaches heavy use of statistics, strict hierarchy, and a reliance on Scientology jargon, for lack of a better word, to run their company. So it was in the atmosphere of Rebecca Minkoff.
I believe it. I forgot how much Scientology loves an acronym.
Oh,
just everything is an acronym.
Cults like that too. They love having their own languages, just saying. Incredibly, this LLC has only had one lawsuit that I can find. In 2017, Rebecca Minkoff, the LLC, not her personally, was sued by Decor Global, a Minnesota-based design and product company, for unpaid invoices of $900,000. But they settled it out of court, and really, her business didn't seem to make a lot of waves. All things considered, it's going well for Rebecca Minkoff, but the same can absolutely not be said for her dad, Dr. David Minkoff. This is where the crimes really start. While Rebecca was climbing the fashion ladder, her dad was continuing work as a physician and leading Scientologist in Clearwater. But back in 1995, Dr. Minkoff almost lost everything, his license to practice medicine and all of his wealth, all because of a patient he never even physically examined in person.
Cool.
Have you heard of a woman named Lisa McPherson?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, she was a member of the Church of Scientology who lived in Clearwater, who died under suspicious circumstances after a 17-day stay at the church's spiritual headquarters in Clearwater, Florida. Now, her death became a major legal crisis for Scientology, PR crisis, and cast a very investigative look into what the heck is going on there when medical things are happening and doctors are involved. So here's what happened. Lisa was in a very minor car accident. She wasn't physically hurt, but she was on the road and in mental distress because car accident. Right. She ended up disrobing, is what the articles say, like just taking all her clothes off. And they were actually not sure what to do with her. And so the EMTs took her to a hospital and doctors suggested psychiatric care. But Scientology's opposition to psychiatric care meant church members found out she was in the hospital under this psychiatrist's care. They intervened and took her to their internal facility, which is not like a hospital setting, but like a wellness center. And while at the church, Lisa underwent what is called an introspection rundown, which is a practice in Scientology to address when someone has a mental breakdown. I don't know. It's not as cute as Mentee B, but I guess it works. Sorry, I'm having an introspection rundown. So she had to be isolated for 17 days, and during this time, her condition deteriorated. Witnesses later revealed that she was severely dehydrated, malnourished, and showing signs of neglect. On December 5th, church members were like, I actually think she does need a hospital. And so they drove her 42 miles away, even though there were closer facilities, and she was pronounced dead on arrival.
Oof.
She was pronounced dead on arrival, and Dr. Minkoff had been the physician on call while all these parishioners were caring for her. So she wasn't under the care of doctors. She was under the care of Scientology leadership. And Dr. Minkoff came under legal scrutiny because he prescribed medication by way of these members to Lisa without ever seeing her in person. So based on what he was hearing, he was like, give her this, give her that, don't give her this, do this. So it was based solely on the information from church staff, not medical professionals.
Right.
So he wasn't criminally charged, but his actions raised ethical concerns about his role in this as like her church leader and a doctor. The autopsy conducted by the county medical examiner concluded that Lisa's death was due to a pulmonary embolism caused by severe dehydration and prolonged bed rest. Her report detailed evidence of extreme physical decline, including weight loss, insect bites, and bruising. And it supported allegations that she was completely neglected during her isolation and not getting the care she received. So a criminal case did come against not Minkoff himself, but the Scientology church. That was eventually dropped, but Lisa's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit because, of course they did. So this was settled out of court in 2004 for an undisclosed amount. But despite the legal resolution on paper, the case became very well known as one of these controversies surrounding Scientology, how they treat members when they're in crisis,
right?
And where the line with like religious freedom and medical intervention are. So was
Yeah.
this justice? I don't know. He did lose his medical license for a year, but got it fully reinstated and had no repercussions whatsoever. And so you might be thinking, well, wow, that was a very tough lesson for him to learn. And again, the death was in 95, but this wasn't all really resolved until 2004.
Right.
Unfortunately for Rebecca Minkoff, just in time for her debut this year on RHONY Reboot, in May, her dad is named in another wrongful death suit.
Ooh.
Connected to another Scientology member, but this time it was a death by suicide. And the charges just came around this year, but it happened in 2022. Here's what happened this time. A woman named Whitney Mills, another Scientologist who was living in Clearwater, was having severe mental health issues, self-reported, said, I'm having anxiety and hallucinations, and I need help. And instead of focusing on the physical diagnoses and treatments, they went the reports say experimental therapies and unapproved drugs. And they were trying to treat physical symptoms and not the mental health ones, thinking if we could get her well, those other things would take care of themselves.
Right.
And I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the right course of treatment was, but they weren't addressing her very dire, repeated ask for help. So she was actually considered someone at the highest spiritual level in Scientology. She was level OT8. I don't know exactly what that means, but that's what she was. And despite this, she had the, I don't know, bravery to say, I'm struggling, because at that point, you're supposed to have audited all the negative stuff out and you're not supposed to have any of these things.
Is this post Brooke Shields postpartum?
I forgot
Tom
all
Cruise?
about Brooke Shields and this.
Yeah.
Well, it's 2022, so yeah. Oh my gosh, this is way after. Oh my gosh.
So they did not learn their lesson.
No, doesn't sound like it. She reported issues with anxiety, insomnia, and psychosis. And it's important to note that Dr. Minkoff's clinic was called LifeWorks Wellness Center, again, focusing more on holistic practice, not so much straight physical diagnoses.
Traditional.
And so they found she had Lyme disease and some other autoimmune issues, and that's what they began treating. Reports say that her calls for help were ignored, or at the very least, very much minimized. So things didn't improve for her, and Mills tragically took her own life. You know, we can fill in the blanks why, but that's what happened. Her family gets this news, and they feel that Dr. Minkoff has to be held responsible this time, and the Church of Scientology at large. They claim that church officials discouraged her from seeking appropriate mental health care, and that David Minkoff himself provided ineffective treatments that failed to address the mental health crisis she was in. The wrongful death lawsuit against Dr. Minkoff is still active. It just happened in May of 2024. They've added charges of medical negligence, and this legal move came after a detailed investigation into the role of his clinic and Scientology's role in Whitney's death. So this is really recent. It's literally playing out now. There could be an outcome while Rebecca is on Real Housewives of New York.
Ooh.
I know. And one thing I didn't mention, going back to the death of Lisa McPherson, the Scientology church challenged her autopsy. And they basically got other medical examiners to give a different opinion.
Yeah.
And that is why the legal outcome was what it was. So they had an ME look and say, actually, we're going to call this undetermined. And that changed everything in terms of the legal action that could happen. And that's why the penalty was so minor. And while the controversy remained, I mean, the public knows about it, it's being talked about, but technically and legally, the church really protected itself. And this is where it gets really tricky because they have so much money, because it costs a lot of money to be a Scientologist. And that's just a fact. I'm not going to call it a cult or not, but this is not a religion where you just get to optionally tithe. It's to go through the process and the steps of the program. You have to shell out a ton of money. And Leah Remini talks about this. Lots of people talk about this who have once been Scientologists and have now left the church. So will we see this play out on the Real Housewives of New York? I don't know. But Rebecca, I want to play you two clips because especially, Melissa, you're not watching, so you haven't seen these.
Yeah.
For anyone who is watching, you'll remember everybody on the show wants her to talk about Scientology.
Yeah.
They really do. And she is so careful about what she says. She says as little as possible, but then she like really overshares about some other things. And it's just really funny because we end up hearing stuff we probably rather not hear. And everybody just wants the Scientology tea. But now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this happened well, actually, I guess this would have happened after she had filmed. But just knowing her dad's trouble, I'm surprised
I'm sure she knew it was brewing.
Exactly. I'm not surprised she's being so tight-lipped about it, but I am surprised that she'd even want to put herself in this vulnerable position and be known as a Scientologist. But go ahead and play the one that says Jenna and virginity first.
Okay.
Play that one.
I lost my virginity at 16 because my parents had a really great deal. They said, if you don't do drugs, we'll get you birth control pills. And I was like, sign me up.
That's great.
Wow. That wasn't normal then.
That's not normal.
That's not normal.
But hold on. That's not normal.
Are you saying it's weird that they did that?
Very. Yeah, very weird.
You don't think that's weird? Would you do that with your daughter? I'd make that deal with her.
Hell no. I grew up in California, and so like it was mostly about drinking and driving, but like the idea that I would condone sex at 16, it's all like too much. I have a 17-year-old kid. Like I can't even imagine giving him, oh God.
Okay.
Is that a deal you would make with your teenager?
Absolutely not. How about we don't do either?
Yeah, how about that? And I was actually kind of surprised at the New York moms.
Me
like,
too.
That they weren't like, that's cool. They were all, I was surprised at how scandalized they were, to be honest. It's like reluctant acceptance of certain things your kids do, maybe as teenagers. But then I think it was interesting to see them say, but there's like that proactive, let's make a deal in advance that did seem crazy even to them. So I was like, that's not normal now, let alone back in the 90s or whenever that was. So I thought that was really interesting. And then I thought it wouldn't be fair to do this episode without hearing straight from the primary source what Scientology means to Rebecca Minkoff. This is what we got from her when Aaron sat her down, because they both share a connection of being Jewish. And Aaron wanted to know what it's like to be Jewish and a Scientologist. So let's play that one.
So he's Jewish.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
How, like, does it work for you? Just because I know we always talk about being Jewish, but how does it work being Jewish and a Scientologist?
Yeah. So being Jewish is my religion, obviously. And then the other one is really an applied philosophy that, like, when it gets rough, that's where I can get tools to help me with communication, with the stress of life, like dealing with kids, a business.
But I guess it's not really a religion.
It is in the fact that everyone hears the word religion and they're like, God, worship, right? But there's also anything spiritual in nature.
Right, yeah.
So you could go as far as to say that going to Soul Cycle is a spiritual experience for you, right?
I'm not that into Soul Cycle.
I'm not either, but I'm just making, you know? So like there's no worship or prayer. It's like tools to help you.
Right.
And that's kind of it. I think that it's unfortunate that there are a lot of stereotypes out there that are people who don't have the right information, are working with inadequate data. And I would just ask people to go check it out for yourself, whether it is reading a book, going online, watching the TV station about it.
When you say, like, go read a book, obviously, like, my mind, the first book that comes to mind is Going Clear.
Don't read that book.
I'm actually very surprised that she even mentioned Going Clear, that she acknowledged anything. Do you know what her answer reminded me of about what to do, you know, if you want to learn more? Years ago, when Kirstie Alley was still alive, she was on Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother or something. And they asked her, which is like a great time to ask somebody when they cannot get away from you, about Scientology. And her answer the whole time was like, if you want to know more, you just need to read a book, read a book, read a book. That was like all she was saying. That's all she would say. So it was interesting when that was like the first thing she said is read a book, not like go visit the Clearwater thing. It's read a book.
That is interesting. Also, when she says, what does she say? The Scientology TV network or something? And it's online now. And that's where that first Clearwater clip came from. If you go to Scientology.tv.com or whatever, there's just a million shows. All of them are like so culty. I'm sorry, they are. They're just like cheesy and weird. But I realized, I don't know, I feel like I might have told this story on the show before, but many years ago, we're talking like 10 years ago, my daughter and I went to stand in line at like 4 a.m. for Hamilton tickets to get like last minute same day tickets for cheap. And so we're standing there and it's on 44th Street, which is where the New York City Scientology building is. Actually, we'll talk about this after the episode, but you're going to be in New York on Friday and we're going to a show. Well, we might need to take a picture in front of the Scientology building. But they have a TV screen outside of it, which loops show like their own messages 24/7. So we were literally sitting on the street from like 4 a.m. to like 7 p.m. that day. I'm still traumatized. And we were staring at the Scientology screen and we were talking about how effective it was, just reading it over and over. And we'd been like, oh, we saw this one. Oh, this is a new message. And oh no, but you need the tools first. We were joking about it, but it was like,
oh my gosh,
we had nothing to look at. We just stared at it. And it was just interesting to me. And so I'm not saying
that's very interesting.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it was very interesting and that we're no Clearwater, but New York City definitely has a Scientology presence for whenever people are here, I guess.
And what a smart place to put it where they know people are congregating. Going to be stuck there.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's right off Times Square. There's lots of people lining up there at all times and you just stare. Oh. Yeah, we're going to go there.
Perfect. The other thing I was wondering is she mentioned, the whole idea is like, is it a religion? She's like, yes, but like, it's really more because they have to say it's a religion because they have, tax exempt status and everything. But you're also saying soul cycles, kind of which one is it? That's what I want to know. Which one is it? Because it can't be both.
You could not be setting up my last clip more perfectly. It's like we rehearsed. Go to the next clip. And it's almost like I couldn't do an episode about Scientology without Leah Remini's voice because most people know her as the most outspoken advocate for people who have been like completely destroyed and traumatized by this religion organization. She talks about this very thing about it being a church and a religion with Chelsea Handler on her show. Take a listen.
But you did because you really stuck your neck out because you hear stories about people leaving Scientology and you hear about them coming to your house and scaring you or threatening you. I mean, all the people on your show.
Well, yes. I mean, people should Google that. I mean, they should just Google, Scientology going after its enemies and you will see just regular people, just parishioners who spent their life in Scientology having their kids turn against them. They do these hate websites and they have their children speaking about their mothers and their fathers and fathers talking against their children and not being able to talk to them. It's vile behavior. And this is, I have to remind people, an organization calling itself a church.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a church. How can it even call itself a church? Why?
Ask the IRS who gave them tax exempt status.
Really?
I mean, really, it is the job of the IRS now to look at this and not use the excuse of, church and state. If your doctrine calls for people to be destroyed, that's something you need to look into and step in and do something.
I mean, I really did set that up quite beautifully. I had no idea.
I'm like, I was like, are you looking at my Google Doc?
Are you sharing my screen? Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Why does it still have its tax exempt status?
Especially when so much of what they do is for profit. They sell products, these books that these people have to buy to stay
Look at the freaking building.
Yet those structures are compound and they're gorgeous. I mean, that Clearwater place is beautiful.
Sure.
Like from the exterior, I'd go in just...
Okay, I think you watched too many clips. I'm worried about you.
I know. Okay, we should wrap this up. But that's the story of Rebecca Minkoff, which I find more interesting than anything she's done on the show so far. We cannot... I think I alluded to this in the beginning and I said, we talk about it. The second most recent episode when this airs, so it wasn't the one that played this week. That's on tonight, actually. It was last week's. Have you heard about the stunt Aaron and Rebecca pulled?
It's some kind of pregnancy something. Is that right? Or no?
Aaron's whole shtick is that she plays pranks. And like, it went horribly on season 1. She stole Uba's phone and they got into a massive fight about it. This year, she put fake cockroaches in their dessert at her house in the Hamptons. It's just getting very old. That led to actually people vomiting. Sai and Uba both threw up. And then this episode, there's actually something interesting happen. Aaron finds out Rebecca is pregnant and that she's like a swinger and it's someone else's baby. And she ends up telling Jessel. And basically, it shows how quickly the cast does not keep secrets. And they all end up knowing.
Sure.
And then they end up at this dodgeball event because they're playing dodgeball. And everyone knows Rebecca's pregnant with someone else's baby. And they're like throwing a ball at her, but trying not to hit her stomach. And then at the very end, and spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched it, but it's not the most recent, so I don't feel bad. And no one's watching it anyway. She goes running out crying. She's like, you told them? And she runs out of the gym. And then Aaron runs up to her. And the last thing we see on camera is them with their arms around each other and being like, we got them. That was good. They played a prank that she was pregnant with someone else's baby, and it was the entire plot point for the whole episode. That's how bad the show is.
I just don't think Erin knows what fun is or funny.
No, I agree.
So her prank, I don't think she knows what a prank is.
No, because
I guess you should talk to, yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, a prank is the cockroach, but it's not fun or funny. But this wasn't, I mean, Rebecca was in on it, but it's kind of like
it's twisted.
Twisted. Yeah, it's like, it's really weird. And for a little while, most of us thought it was true. And so it could easily get misconstrued if people missed that last little moment. I don't know. Seemed very risky to me, and also seemed weird that Rebecca was like, yeah, let's do that. And I think it just goes to show how little everyone has going on, and that this is what they think they need to do to make a good TV show. Doesn't bode well for anyone. I don't know what's going to happen. Will I keep watching? I sure will. I don't know why. I do think most of them are like really beautiful. And I really like the new woman, Raquel, and her fiance. I don't know.
But everyone thought it would be good because finally there's somebody in Scientology. But of course, should have remembered Scientology. They won't say anything.
They won't say anything good. And what they do share is like so weird. And like, yeah, anyway.
Read a book.
Brynn is getting on everyone's nerves. Like her shtick is so old. So yeah, it's not great out there. So tell me that you're watching something better. Give me some clues to a better TV show.
I am. Well, one thing I watched that I'm not giving clues on, you didn't watch it. I think you were surprised I did, was the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul.
Did? I didn't know you watched.
You watched the whole thing.
Your family watched?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think I'm the only person that didn't watch.
I think you're one of the only people that didn't watch. The women's fight was actually great right before it, but the rest of it was just stupid. But we watched it as a family, which is one of the few things we've watched as a family, and I don't know how long. That's upsetting.
That is a choice. Whatever brings the family together, I say, but interesting.
I know, that, which is like upsetting and something I need to think more about. Okay, so I just started this show yesterday, and I've been very excited for it. There's only a couple episodes, but I'm only through the first one. So my clues are Peacock, NBC, comedy, hospital.
Oh, it's like St. Vincent's or Francis
St. Dennis. Yeah.
Is it
St.
good?
Dennis Medical. It's really cute. Like, to be a pilot, I like it. I think I'm going to like where it's going. It's about this hospital in Oregon that's not very well funded, but it's all the, people that work in the hospital, the different characters that come in. So that part, all the different people that are like patients that come in remind me very much of on Parks and Rec when they would have the city council meetings with all like that kind of a thing. And so I think just even for that, it's great. The main lady, Wendy, I always forget her name, but she was on Reno 911. The Goldberg, she's great. But the other lady who plays the main RN, don't remember her name, but she was in the first season of Fargo and she was awesome. So I was excited to see her. Yeah, but I think it's like it's The Office, Parks and Rec, mockumentary kind of thing. And
it seemed like it would be The Office if it was in a hospital.
It's there you go. I should have asked you.
No,
that makes much more sense.
But I will put that on the list. That looks like a fun, feel good, easy watch, which I always need one of those.
Yes.
I'm disappointed to tell you. Sometimes I fail the assignment. I just haven't watched a thing other than every Housewives. I mean, I'm into Potomac, the new season. Like
Potomac is so good.
Is good this season. I'm watching everything. OC reunions, but I haven't watched anything else. I've been like, I don't know. I just haven't.
Okay, so out of the Housewives that are on right now, so it's OC, Potomac, New York. That's it, right? That's all we have going on?
No, Salt Lake City.
Oh, Salt Lake City.
It's a lot.
Can you rank those top 4?
Yeah. I'm going to say, we're in the reunion, so OC's winding down when the others just are getting going, but I'm still going to say OC was number 1. Potomac, Salt Lake City, New York. It's from first to fourth, from top to bottom. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Yeah. OC's been out of control. So good.
So
Change nothing.
Good. And Jen has risen from the ashes we've liked her from day one. I think you were really liked her, and I did too. I was a little concerned sometimes, and I still am concerned, but she has surprised me. I feel like I underestimated her. I do question her judgment because she's still with Ryan.
Of course.
But who among us? He's buying her $1,000 dresses and giving her a nice place to stay. I don't.
And her kids. So, if you're nice to the kids, fine.
But I just think the way she handles herself, particularly at the reunion, was so no notes. Just she handled herself against Heather. And Emily is just being horrible this season and mean.
Horrible.
Mm-hmm. And what they have done to Katie, I think, is inexcusable.
I know. It's so gross. The lowest thing going after the kids, they always talk about that, if that was New Jersey. But she obviously had a lot going on with her first marriage. And that just she seemed very gracious, even for the way she spoke about it. To bring all this up, I just thought was disgusting.
And I feel like Katie is someone, I feel like I started realizing it during the season before the reunions. I'm like, I think she's someone who's going to regret coming on here. I think she's too normal. I think she's put her husband and her daughter, the two most important people in her life, in really precarious positions. And I'm like, I would never want that. She just doesn't seem built for this at all.
No. I do like her friendship with Jen, though, because they seem like a very sweet.
I would like them in real life. That's why I'm like, get off this show. Save yourselves.
I know.
So there's been a lot of housewives. There's a lot keeping up on my life and work and housewives alone. But I do need another show. Maybe it'll be St. Dennis?
Vincent Medical. Oh, no, St. Dennis Medical.
I put St. Vincent in your head.
I still didn't say
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are you working on? What you got cooking up for the next episode?
Okay. I don't think we've done this.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. I'm going to give you 3 names. All 3 of these names have to do with this person. So Bill Cosby, Ryan Seacrest, Tyra Banks.
Wow. I feel like I can get this with some time, but I'm very intrigued.
Should be good.
Oh, man. I'm like, I want to just sit and think about that. I can't wait.
Good.
It's going to be.
I realize after it is probably going to be dark, but I'll lighten it up as much as I can. This was great. I really enjoyed learning about her. And I love that she really did kind of make it on her own, because I wasn't expecting that. Obviously, she did have her family. If she was going to be without a house, I'm sure they would at least get her a ticket to come home or something. She would have had something to fall back on.
But still, seems like she did this herself.
Agree.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if her dad gets into the headlines again while the show is airing or right after, and could be reunion time. Who knows? But I'm keeping my eye on it.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the next episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at Criminality Show. And you can hear Melissa on Tuesdays on her other podcast called Moms and Mysteries. And for one more week, you can listen to the limited series I launched called Thank You for Your Interest on Mondays.
Yay. Awesome. Well, Rebecca, I will see you on Friday.
We'll take some pictures and put them on Instagram in front of Scientology.
Very normal.
Totally what you do when you come to New York. Okay. Bye.